I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists. And as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have the final piece of my 2024 wrap-up for you, and that is my reading stats. I love a good spreadsheet and a good chart. I know that not everybody is into that, and that's completely fair. I don't really know why I am, because I don't like math, but I'm married to a guy who has a degree in business analytics, so maybe that's it. So I am going to record my screen, and we are going to go through my own personal spreadsheet and statistics, as well as the ones from Goodreads and StoryGraph, because they've always got some really interesting stuff to say over there. So let's jump in. All right, so we are now recording. So here is my 2024 reading and books data. As you can see, I have 3 tabs: the books read in 2024, the statistics, and then my 2024 reading goals, which is a new addition for this year. So I've got the title, the author, if it's part of a series, publication date, pages, whether or not it's an arc, which only one of these was because I'm not doing arcs anymore, date started, date completed, and the days read, the rating, the genres, which it can have more than one of. As you can see with 3 Guineas, I've got it as classics and nonfiction. The format I read it in, so ebook, print, or audiobook, whether it's a reread, where I got the book, whether it was for school, and what country the author comes from. So we're gonna go look at the stats, because this is all kind of scary. Like, we go down quite far. So, statistics. Yay, I love charts and things. Leave me alone. All right, so as you can see, I've got a total of 120 books in here, but I only finished 116. I finally figured out how to put in DNFs, and it's just that you put DNF in the genre. So, gonna be keeping track of that from now on. This is not entirely accurate because there were several that I didn't finish that I just forgot to put in here, but I'm gonna try to be better about that. So 116 books, that is up from last year. Here is 2023. As you can see, I had 104. We're also up on pages. There were 38,114. Thank you, Cecilia, The Way We Live Now, and Red Comet for boosting those. I averaged 6.4 days per book, which is less than last year. It was 8.2 last year. And then the average page count was about 325, which is up from last year, where it was 287. Average rating is 4 stars, which was the same as last year, exactly. And then average pages per day was 104. There were days when I read nothing. And that's up from last year as well. It was 81.6. So, I guess we'll do the page count distribution because it's right there. Or maybe we'll do the genres first because they're actually next to each other and easier to see. I have alphabetized the genres this year. We're getting real fancy. So in a turn of events that is shocking to nobody, classics was the most read genre with a grand total of 38. That's so many. That's 31.7% of my reading was classics. Holy crap. The next highest was fantasy with 22 for a total of 18.3%. And then after that was nonfiction with 14 for 11.7%. The least read genre was sci-fi with a grand total of 0 because I don't like sci-fi. So we'll do books per month next because that's the easiest one to see here. So as we can see, September was where I read the most. That makes complete sense because it was shorty September and I was reading short books. October and February are tied for the least, which October, it was because it was Victober and they're long. February, I feel like I just never read much in February. Much, but you know. And those were 6 each? Yeah, 6 each. So 16 in September for the most, and then 6 in February and October for the least. Star ratings. As you can see, it is mostly 4 stars, quite a few 5 stars though. And no 1 stars, but 1.5. So yeah, 35 star reads. I feel like that's unprecedented. What was it last year? So last year it was 25, and I remember thinking that was super high. So 30, holy crap. And then most books that I read were 4 stars with 48. I'm good at picking what I like to read. That 1.5 star was Theophrastus Such by George Eliot. And the 2 stars were largely ones by authors that I have liked in the past, but I just didn't like that book in particular. And there is one book that I opted not to rate for reasons. Page counts. So most of the books were between 300 and 400 pages. That's pretty normal. I did have a few in those really high ones. 2 books over 1,000 pages. That was Cecilia and Red Comet. None between 900 and 1,000, but then also 2 that were between 800 and 900. And I guess that's 3 in the 700s. It's easier to actually read them in the table rather than in the chart. Yeah. So 30 books were between 300 and 400 pages. And then, yeah, I was right. 2 in the 1,000 plus, 2 in the 800s, and 3 in the 700s. So, yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so 102 of these books were new to me, and 14 were rereads. For format, I mostly read in print, so 82.5% was print, 14.2% was ebooks, and then 3.3% was audios. So for the source of the book, I'm super proud of this. Okay, hold on, let's go to last year. Look at how many I bought that were ones I had bought last year. That's 43.3%. And now it is down to 33.3%, with my public library usage up quite a bit from, oh, nope, the colors are wrong, from 6.7% to 18.3%. One of my main goals of the year was to read at least 1 book per month from the library, the public library, and we'll talk about that in the goals part of this sheet. 21.7% were gifts. I have been making a point to read the books that were given to me because, you know. 14.2 were from the university library. 11.7 were free, which means I just somehow picked it up somewhere, lent to me, randomly inherited. And then only 0.8% was from NetGalley because I am no longer doing ARCs. The last ARC that I did was Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, which was my first book of the year. So yeah, 116 not ARCs, 1 singular ARC. Publication date is always fun. Naturally, the 19th century has the most. So I split the 20th century into 2 parts, 1900 to 1969, and then 1970 to 1999. And the 2000s are grouped together, the 2010s, and then 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 each have their own. And then everything else is grouped by century. So 29 from the 19th century. And then the second two largest categories are the second half of the 20th century, 1970 to 1999 with 18, and then the 2010s with 18. The least is the 1700s, but at least there are some there this time because there weren't last time. I know that Cecilia is one of those. What was the other one? I don't know. So 9 were new releases. Yeah, I feel like this is all pretty normal. For school reading, 98 books were not for school and 18 were. Is that down, I wonder? Yes, a lot more were for school last year. And that is probably because a lot of what I'm reading for school now is articles or like pieces of books instead of full books. I only count full books on here. And then we have the country of origin. Naturally, the US and Great Britain are the highest. So 52 authors were from the US, or 52 books were written by authors from the US for a total of 43%, 47 from Great Britain for a total of 39. I'm getting an English literature degree. And then everything else is really low, although there are 5 books from Ireland for 4% because one of my dissertation authors is Irish. 4 from Canada, 2 from Greece, and then 1 for everything else, including Italy, Japan, Australia, France, and Norway. And then 1 was unknown because I could not for the life of me find where this person was from. So, unknown, which obviously does not go on the map. All right, so those are the statistics. Let's go over to my goals, which is a new addition. So I have I have columns. So you can see here, I wanted to read 12 books from the public library. I wanted to read 10 works of Victorian literature, 6 fairy tale retellings, 6 classics from not the Victorian period, 6 fantasy books that were not fairy tale retellings, 6 other reads, 5 nonfiction, 3 rereads, and 8 from my dissertation authors for 2 each. So, the dark line is where the cutoff was for like where the goal was. So it comes after 12 spots in the library column. And as you can see, I read way more than that. I read 20 books from my public library, which I'm really happy with. It did not end up being actually one each month. There were months where I did not get a book out, but it evened out. So far more than evened out. For Victorian literature, I had wanted to read 10. I read 16. I was so behind on this. Like at the halfway point of the year, I was like, am I gonna make it? But I did. For fairy tale retellings, I read exactly the goal of 6. For other classics, I wanted to read 6. I ended up reading 11. So this is just anything that is not Victorian, but can be considered a classic. So we've got Virginia Woolf, Cecilia goes in there, we've got some Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, Shakespeare. It's got all kinds of stuff. For fantasy, I'd wanted to read 6. I read a total of 7. Now, as you saw, I read way more fantasy than just that. A lot of the fantasy I read was out of the library, or it was a fairy tale retelling, so it ended up in that column instead. Each book is only on this sheet once. For other reads, I wanted to read 6. I read 23, which is the most of any category. So I think my other reads might need to be higher next year. I wanted to read 5 works of nonfiction. I read 9, which I'm really happy with, especially since some of these were extremely chunky. For rereads, I had put 3 on there. I read 11. Sounds right. Now, again, that is more than what, or that is less than what my statistics show. There were a few picture books that I reread that I did not include in this goal sheet just because it kind of felt like cheating. And then my dissertation authors is the only one where I did not meet or exceed the goal. I wanted to read 8, 2 from each author. I only read 7. I did not read 2 from Ouida, although I did start another one by her. So I am kind of sad that I didn't fully fill out the sheet, but that's okay. So let's go over to Goodreads and see what the year in books has to say. So 116 books. The page count is not as accurate over here because the additions just like aren't right sometimes. So this has me at 37,847, which is less than what? Nope, that's 2023. I don't want that. Oh, computer, stop that. Yeah, it's less than. Not by a huge amount, but it is less than. So this has my longest book at Red Comet at 1,154 pages. I do agree that is the longest book that I read. And my shortest as one of those picture books, Sea Tale by Gail E. Haley, with 30 pages. I have no idea if that's accurate or not, but yeah, probably the picture books are some of the shortest. Average book length is 326. If we compare that to 2020 to my spreadsheet, it's like almost exactly correct. That is really surprising. Most shelved is Harry Potter. That makes sense. Least shelved is Sisters of Charity, Catholic and Protestant Abroad and at Home by Anna Jameson, which is a very early Victorian pamphlet. Shocking. No one else has shelved it? What? Average rating, 4 stars. That's the same as it is in mine. And then the highest rated on Goodreads was What Manner of Man by St. John Starling, who was that author that I couldn't find where they're from. And that's really all Goodreads gives. I feel like they used to give more. Did they used to give more, or am I just making that up? I don't know. Let's go over to StoryGraph because they do have quite a bit. So, my 2024 reading wrap-up, which is far more interesting than Goodreads one, I just want to say. 116 books across 38,488 pages. Now that is too many. So Goodreads had too few. This one has too many. Okay. First book was Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. Last book was Before Midnight by Cameron Doki. This is really fun. It's the mood map. And this happened last year too, is that I started off really high. So lighter books push the line up and darker books pull it down. So I start really high and then just go down. And that's exactly what happened last year. You engaged in introspective musings, explored the shadows of the human psyche, and traversed landscapes of the heart. Okay. Narratives flowed at a comfortable, engaging tempo. Books and pages read per month. So the red line is pages read, books read is blue. So this is really interesting. So November, I must have read some really long stuff. I don't even know what I read in November, to be honest. And then interestingly enough, the closest is April, which is when I would have been reading those picture books for Picture This. And then September has higher book reads than books read than pages read because it was shorty September. And then February, books read's all the way down here, but one of those was Cecilia, so you know, it's all the way up there. That's always just really fun to look at. I met my reading goal of 50 books. So this has the genres that I spent the most time with as classics, with 32, fantasy with 19. So those numbers do not match what I have, probably just because my categorization is different than theirs. But the top two genres are what they were in my spreadsheet. And then it's got thriller as my third. Really? You see, I only have 10 in the mystery thriller category. So that's interesting. And then 14 literary, and what are you counting as literary? Oh, are they not letting you click on it this year? Boo. And then 14 LGBTQ+. Which, I don't know. That's not something I keep track of in my spreadsheet. Longest book is Red Comet still. This has the shortest book as Margaret Oliphant by Valerie Sanders with one page, which is just incorrect. Average length of the books you read was 328 pages, and it took you around 8 days to finish each. So mine has me reading at a bit of a quicker pace with a few less pages. Least time spent was a day. There were a lot of books that took just one day to finish. Heartstopper Volume 5 is one of them. The most days spent with Red Comet at 91 days. Look, it's a long book, and I took some pretty long breaks from it. The authors you spent the most time with: George Eliot with 4. Yeah, I was doing my George Eliot project. Margaret Oliphant with 3, and Charlotte Riddle with 3. Average rating was 4.01 stars. And then these are all my 5 stars. Ratings, which this year are accurate because I started rating things on StoryGraph. Yay! So again, 47 and 4 stars. Or actually, no, that's not right because, well, that's not the same because on StoryGraph you can do quarter stars. So I did put them in, even though I didn't put them in my spreadsheet. And then the 35 stars. Some months were better than others. March, the highest average rating was 4.44. December wasn't my favorite month with an average rating of 3.64. Wonder what I was reading in March. I read Middlemarch. I don't know what else I read. Most pages read was November with 4,620. Most shelved is still Harry Potter. Least shelved is Margaret Oliphant by Valerie Sanders. What do you mean people aren't reading my niche Victorian interests? Now, the highest rated was Red Comet with an average of 4.64 stars. I explored 55 new authors, including Anne McCaffrey, who's not actually a new author to me, but my other book that I read by her was not in here. Jill Hornby and Devin Philbrick, who is a friend of mine and wrote this book right here, Snowdrifts. 25 books that I read were part of a series. This has me rereading 10 books, so those picture books aren't included because they were not in the StoryGraph system. This has me as deciding not to finish 6 books that I picked up. That's probably fairly accurate. And then I read 68 books from my own shelves. And I successfully completed one reading challenge, which was the Victober challenge. So, StoryGraph also has a few more than just that. They have like these moods, which I think are really interesting. So my mood for 2024, I read 41 reflective books, 36 emotional books, 36 dark books, and 33 mysterious books. So things are reflective and dark, whereas relaxing, there's 2, sad there's 4, 5, there's hope for hopeful. Last year it was hopeful at 1, so we're getting better. Pace, I mostly read medium pace with 47%, and then 39% at a slow pace and 13 at a fast pace. We don't like fast things here, apparently. Pages, 45% under 300, 40% between 300 and 500, and 16% at over 500. 81% fiction, 19% nonfiction. And then this just gives more more of the genres. So you can see horror and historical, mystery, young adult romance, all that. Format isn't accurate. And then my most read authors, there were a few others who I read 3 books by, including Mary Oliver, Stephen King, and T. Kingfisher. Languages. For the first time ever, I have something to talk about here. Although the Slavic is incorrect. What book got... No, I did not read that in Slavic. Okay. But yeah, obviously most of my books are read in English. It's my first language, but I did read 1 book in French, and I'm very pleased with myself. Already saw this and already saw that. So that is everything. And now I am back to full screen on me. So those are my reading stats for 2024. Wow, I can't believe the year is over. That's crazy to me. Let me know down in the comments, do you keep track of this type of stuff? Do you have a spreadsheet? Do you use Goodreads, StoryGraph? Let me know what some of your statistics were if you do. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.